in the Emerging Markets Forum conference some weeks ago in Mumbai and Delhi, where an impressive scenario was laid out before us, that by 2039, in a generation's time, some of us may pass away, but I think most of you will very much be very active, not only be alive, but also active. By 2039, if we do the right things now, India would be the second largest economy in the world, next only to China, overtaking the United States. But if only we did the right things now. It is not ours by right, but it is a tantalizing possibility if we have the courage to accept this challenge. Varaprasad talked about lack of resources. Yes and no. I don't think that's the real challenge. I think essentially India has the resources and also can harness resources. Of course, nobody has enough money. Only in that boring place called heaven do you have a situation where you have more money than your needs. I don't know why people aspire to go there. I mean, certainly it's not a place for managers. I mean, if you want to challenge anything, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but if you want to really confront challenges, heaven is not the place. This is the place, because all of our innovation, adaptation, and leadership are about meeting the gap, bridging the gap between our limited resources and unlimited wants. And that's what makes life so exciting. So let's take the fundamental challenge as I see it. I don't know if there's a God. In fact, right now, with me there's a book about the mind of God. I think Paul Davies wrote that. I'm participating in a book club chat over that book later in the night. I don't know if there's a God, but I certainly know that there is sin. I believe there are two great sins. The first is unfulfilled potential. The second is avoidable suffering. And if you measure the sum total of sin in a society by these two yardsticks, sadly, the most God-fearing nation on earth, our very nation, would also be the most sinful nation on earth. It's not a happy thought. But the good news is, as Varaprasad has demonstrated, we can dramatically, radically alter it if we have the courage and conviction and daring and leadership. Take innovation. There are many areas. Education is crying for innovation. Last night, I spent a good hour with Nandan, Nilakeni and Rohini, good friends. Nandan was actually asked to do something about education, but then the political class lost nerve and said, no, you're too radical and it won't work, and therefore, no, do something more technically oriented. And therefore, he ultimately is now doing this citizen numbering, whatever you call it, universal or unique identification system. But the point is, education requires a lot of fixing. After 10 years of morons presiding over the greatest expansion of higher education in the history of this country, a cynical man called Arjun Singh and an obscurantist called Murli Manohar Joshi, they did everything possible to undermine the talents and the abilities and the skills of our young people. It requires desperate fixing. A lot of innovation is called for. I don't want to go into detail. Take healthcare. Take skills. Take issues like reservations, our social institutions, and this whole issues of equity. And we all know the problems, it's a zero-sum game, and people who want it to perpetuate, and people who don't want it to seize instantly, and there's no meeting point. It's a zero-sum game, and you have to find innovative solutions. There is no cut-and-dried solution. You have to find an acceptable solution in a complex society, because really, governance is about reconciling conflicting interests in a complex society. Take healthcare. Varaprasad talked about his travels and success, and yet his failure to get hepatitis B vaccine included in the immunization schedule. Let me talk about another problem of a similar kind. Every year, 500,000 children are born in this country with preventable congenital abnormalities. 500,000 children, either congenital heart disease or blindness and deaf mutism or absence of some limbs, deformed limbs or absence of some limbs. Almost all these 500,000 cases are traced to one single disease, rubella or German measles. When the baby is in the womb of the pregnant mother, the mother contracts this infection, which is relatively simple and doesn't really do much damage to her. A couple of days of fever and some rash and nothing more, and everything disappears. Should forget all about it. But the child is born with this. Happily, there's a vaccine. And happily, it doesn't cost much. It costs for you and me in the market today 50, 60 rupees. With mass production, it would easily come down to 15, 20 rupees. It would cost for the whole country, for those who are not vaccinated, if you include in the government schedule, about 50 crore rupees in a year. What's the expenditure of government in this country? Every day, 3,600 crore rupees. 120 crore rupees an hour. 2 crore rupees a minute. And yet 500,000 children are born in this country because their mothers, before marriage or before pregnancy, were not immunized against this very simple disease. It took us 50 years after Jonathan Salk and Sabine discovered respectively the polio parenteral and later the oral vaccine. It took us 50 years and great effort by the Rotarians and the WHO and many others to control, even now not eradicate, but to control substantially poliomyelitis. Hopefully we'll eradicate it, but if we don't, Mr. Narayanamurthy was telling me the other day that India will face the ignominy of every Indian needing a certification of vaccination when he travels abroad, polio vaccination. Because India is probably the last remaining country with significant incidence of polio. We need to do a great deal. We need to transform both our education, healthcare, adaptation. Of late, one particular thought is troubling me. I was one of those Indians who said, look, let's worry about local pollution, but CO2 emissions and other things. These are global problems, and India desperately has to develop, and therefore our growth rate is important. And if America and others bear the cost of it eventually, how do I care? We also have the right to pollute as the rest of them do. But unfortunately, the recent floods in Andhra Pradesh are a wake-up call. It's not a flash in the pan. There is evidence all over the world that in the temperate zones, there is a thawing because of the global warming, and the winters are getting shortened, and the agricultural seasons are getting advanced by 1 week to 5 weeks, depending on the geographic location of each of these countries. Correspondingly, in the tropical zone, the summers are getting prolonged, the monsoons are getting delayed, and the rains are getting bunched. And therefore, you have seen a unique spectacle of the Krishna River witnessing 25 lakh cusecs of flood flow, as opposed to the highest ever recorded flow of 1 million cusecs. 2.5 times. Now, it's not merely a flood we should bother about. If monsoons are going to be now radically altered, India will be altered radically. Because all of our history, our economy, our culture, our society, our tradition, everything is related to monsoons. It's the Arabs' discovery of monsoons and use of it in the trade and many other things that really shaped India. And therefore we have to adapt. Quickly we can. It's not going to be easy, but it has to be done as quickly as is humanly possible. Or take the issue of urbanization. Karuna is working on urbanization in big cities. But this is insane. What's happening today is absolutely insane. Millions of underskilled people migrate into big cities in the hope of earning a livelihood and then living precarious lives. in extremely oppressive circumstances. It's a disgrace to human ingenuity and decency. This is not urbanization. We're creating urban ghettos. We're paralyzing our cities, and we're undermining economic growth because most growth is essentially going to be urban. We can easily create a large number of small towns, provide skills to many of these people, ensure value addition, and create millions upon millions of jobs. In Andhra Pradesh alone, you can create 5 million jobs in 5 years. Not big, high-paying jobs, but 5,000, 6,000 rupees a month, believe me, are very important jobs for millions of Indians. We can do that. But it requires adaptation and some capacity to imagine. It doesn't cost much money. All of it in Andhra Pradesh, for instance, it costs exactly an amount equivalent to one single stupid project they're attempting. The Chevella Pranahita lift irrigation scheme, the world's largest lift irrigation scheme, lifting about 110 TMC of water to a height of 1,500 feet. The second largest lift irrigation scheme is in the United States, with 11 TMC of water, supplying to 800,000 acres of land, 11 cities including Las Vegas, and also producing electricity, because while there's lifting, the water also is flowing down some of the hills and mountains. They're actually generating electricity. And if America finds such things passably viable, we in India think that we can actually spend 400,000 rupees an acre capital cost on 40,000 rupees an acre per annum maintenance cost, including the power and the maintenance of the machinery, etc., and interest rates. It's insane. The same 40,000 crores could build 1,000 small towns in Andhra Pradesh and create 5 million new jobs and bridge agriculture with industry, add value, guarantee better farm prices. Let me come to the last part, reform. Of course, a hell of a lot of reform is required. But I can sum up in 3 short phrases. Clean and inclusive politics. Any reform must start with that. Clean and inclusive politics. 2, power to the